sir. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you. Everyone can be seated. Sergeant Evans, come forward, please, sir. Sergeant Evans swore in yesterday, swore in again today. You can resume your seat on the witness stand. You're still under oath to testify truthfully, sir. See that document that you were looking at before the lunch break, Mr. Sealer?
Yes, sir, it is.
Okay. Ms. Perry, you may proceed.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Sergeant Evans, you didn't talk to anybody about your testimony or anything at lunchtime, did you? All right. And I was asking you a question regarding that, the area or the sector that would be east of where Cheryl Wright's sector was, where I think in your, and I can go to your chart in a minute, but it's called an area called Starlight in Collierville. I asked you if you're familiar with the Starlight neighborhood in Collierville.
No, sir, I'm not.
Okay. And yesterday, you had I think a part of your report reflected some Facebook business records.
Yes, sir, it did.
And were you the person that made the request for those records?
No, sir, I was not.
Did you receive the full dose of those records, or just a little bit of it?
No, sir, I received a zip file and a PDF. So typically with the zip file and the PDF, that would be the entirety of what was sent from Facebook.
And you realized that on yesterday, I think there were, if I may approach you.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
As a part of your presentation, I think you made reference to some Facebook messages that you had received.
Yes, sir, that's correct.
And you received those back in what year?
Oh, I received those last week, sir.
Okay, so you just got the 2,000-page zip file?
Yes, sir.
All right. But you did get all 2,000 pages?
I believe so, sir. I didn't count them, but I got the entire zip folder.
Did those reflect Jimmy Martin's Facebook records?
Yes, sir, they did.
When you received that zip file, did you go all the way through that zip file?
No, sir, I did not.
All right, and so you wouldn't be familiar with anybody named Tiffany Antoinette in that file?
No, sir.
Were you asked to look at page 2173 of the file?
No, sir, I was not.
If there were any pages that made reference to going to Atlanta, that wouldn't have stuck out in your mind?
I wasn't asked to look for it. If I would have been asked to look for it, I would have searched for that and pulled it out or looked at the actual messages.
All right. Likewise, did you look at a page 2108?
Not that I can recall, no, sir.
All right. And with the name Janet Stewart Twilley from the Facebook records of Jimmy Martin, would that make any difference one way or the other with you?
No, sir.
All right. Were you given reference to an address 494 South Main in Collierville.
Is in reference to the record, to these records?
No, not Facebook. We're off
Oh,
Facebook.
okay,
now.
we're done with that.
Yes.
Yes, sir.
In reference to the investigation, did anybody tell you from your MPD office or the DA's office regarding the record to look into Street 494 South Main extended in Collierville?
No, sir.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. And you are familiar with that document?
I've never seen it before, no, sir, but I can go through it.
You'll look through it. I won't ask you a question until you've had a chance to peruse it. Can you look for Edna J. Teixeira in that sequence of documents?
Is there a specific page you're looking me to look at, or is there, I'm not sure where you want me to go.
If I can get it back from you. I can
Yes,
show
sir.
you.
Yes, sir.
It might be easier.
Yeah, that's fine. For the sake of the record, I'm referencing Exhibit 58.
Yes, sir.
All right. I should have started off with page 1. I thought that you were.
Yes, sir.
Is it on page 1?
It's on page 1.
Why don't you approach?
Okay, thank you.
Approach.
I appreciate it.
Sergeant Evans, exactly what they
Disrespect
wanted
your
to
court.
look at.
All right. You
Yes,
see
sir.
page 1?
I do.
All right. And who is Edna J again?
Edna J was saved in Shara Wright's phone as Jimmy Martin, or it's Jimmy Martin goes by the, she had him in her contacts as Edna J.
Okay, and yesterday, the same way that you were reading the text interchange,
Yes, sir.
can you read that text interchange, please?
So this would be to Edna J at 662-650-0739. The date's July 15, 2010. The first message is going to be at 6:44 p.m. It's UTC -5, and the message reads K.
Okay. Go
Go
down
on.
to the next line.
So the next message is going to be the same date. It's going to be from Edna J. So now we're going answering back, and it's going to be at 6:45 and 23 seconds, which is less than a minute, and it says same place.
All right.
Below that, it's going to be now going to Edna J. again on the 15th at 6:45, and the message reads 8:15.
All right.
Below that, it looks like almost the exact same, to again, so it's going to Edna J, and it could be a duplicate because it's the same exact, it says 8:15, it's the exact same time.
All right. Next
Uh,
line.
The next line would be from Edna J on the 15th, again of 2010 at 6:54, so you're looking at 9 minutes later, and it's cool, is the word.
All right. Next line.
That's gonna, again, be more of a duplicate record.
Mhm.
It's not necessarily a duplicate text, but it's a duplicate record. Your next is gonna be to Edna J on the 15th at 7:32 and 12 seconds p.m., and it says 8:30. Again, we have another duplicate below that. And then again, it's gonna be to Edna J, 7:15 at 8:32, so we're looking at an hour later, 8:50, or 8:50.
So it appears at this point that the person is changing the time. In other words, trying to meet that person at a certain destination and saying,
Yes, sir, they're saying same place, and they give 2 different times, or 3 different times, 8:15, 8:30, 8:50.
all right, next line.
You got to Edna J again on the 15th at 9:35, and it says, been here for 40 minutes.
Now, who is that sent from?
That is to Edna J. This record doesn't indicate It just shows Edna J's phone number.
All right.
So I don't see the other number.
Okay. Look at the column. Do you see to your right where it's showing whose cell phone this
It's
is?
Jimmy Martin's text messages.
All right. And it's to whom?
Well, all it says here, I'm not.
No,
Yes,
you're
I'm just
fine.
reading what's on the paper.
It says Jimmy
Jimmy-
Martin's
yeah,
text
Jimmy-
messages and Edna J.
Yep.
Correct? All right, and Edna J is stored in whose phone as Edna J?
Sheriff's phone.
Okay.
Okay.
And so, if that is stored in Sheriff's phone as Edna J,
So these are pulled from, these are pulled from her phone.
From Sheriff's phone. And Sheriff down there says what to Edna J?
At 9:35, it says, been here for 40 minutes. And then he replies back to her at 9:36 or a minute later, what you in? And then she replies back to him, van. And then he replies back to her at 9:40, all right.
In the extraction reports that you had gone through before and what you were reading yesterday, you did have one text message that you said at a point during the early morning hours of July 19th, where Shara texted Billy, "Boy, you owe me," or something along those lines. "You owe me my commission because I'm giving Lorenzen your cards." I'm summarizing.
Yes, sir.
But you remember a text message exchange such as that,
Yes, sir, it was on July 18th, it was the night before.
July 18th. But you never had an exchange where Sheriff was supposed to be meeting Billy or describing a place or time or anything like that, do you?
No, sir, those messages were out there.
Now, you are not familiar with you didn't go through all the Facebook messages.
No, sir, I did not.
And that's not your job to do, like it's my job to do. 2,300 some odd pages of Facebook messages, right? One saying that they're supposed to be going to Atlanta on July 15th, could possibly mean he's going to Atlanta to meet with Sheriff at that time, correct?
I think this is not the appropriate witness again. If we can approach or.
If the question is, and I believe Sergeant Evans has testified that he did not review all the records, and if you're asking him, Mr. Perry, what those messages could have meant, he can't answer that because you're asking him to speculate as to something that he says he has not read, has not seen. So it's the same objection because he can't speculate to something that he has no knowledge of.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
On that same point, and just like the judge said, you can't testify as to where somebody's driving and all those types of things, right?
No, sir, I can't. As far as based on records?
Yeah.
Yes, no, sir.
And just like we talked about earlier, you can't speculate as to where Billy might have been at a certain date or time or any of that, can you?
No, sir. All I can testify to is the records.
What you have. Okay. Right now, we're just gonna start on the page and all right. Going back to yesterday, and the jury can all see. Okay. Going back to yesterday, you did this PowerPoint and you made it available the day before yesterday, correct?
That's correct.
And we'll turn to the next page of it. Well, the first page, it has cell phone records, cell phone exams, and Facebook records. Now, a few moments ago when I was asking you about Facebook records, I asked you about the full volume of Facebook records. You were provided them in the zip drive. In other words, the zip drive had all 2,400 odd pages, etc., right?
Yes, sir, it did.
But you only went to certain areas, correct?
Correct.
And this report would only reflect those certain areas, correct?
Yes, sir.
All right. Next page, sir. Oh, yeah. Thank you.
We just got that.
I feel inspired. Thank you. All right.
Is that a pointer?
No, it's not a pointer. It'll click me page to page, and it's about an 80% chance I'll mess this up too. So we'll see.
He may want to make it bigger if you want to do the slideshow.
No. I'm just going to go to the next page.
So here's the thing, this one's not really where we tested this earlier.
Yeah.
You're gonna stand behind these two mics for the work. It's just.
Which one goes? That goes forward.
It's forward.
All right, thank you.
You may want to.
Something to do with all the speakers and Bluetooth.
You want
No,
to.
that's fine.
You may want to make it a slideshow to make it bigger instead of that.
in cell phone technology overview, we talked earlier about technology, et cetera. You're not able to testify as to the inner workings of those machines.
No, sir, I cannot.
And the tower is not in the center of the hexagon. Is that information provided by Cellbrite, or where do you get that information?
On the bottom right, PATC Tech, we've been through training with them, so
All right.
that's where that was pulled from.
And most of this technology, you receive the information from the companies and input it into a data system. Is that-
Yes, sir, we receive raw data from the cell carrier, and then we would use a software tool.
In PAC Tech, that would be the software tool?
No, sir, PATC Tech does independent training on
Oh.
how to analyze cell phone records, and how to read cell phone records. And so they go over the technology.
Gotcha. Cell phone technology, side lobes, rear lobes, and you described that yesterday, so there's no reason to rehash. I'm just keep going through it.
Yes, sir.
That again is talking about the sectors, et cetera.
Yes, sir, the 3-sector deployment at the bottom and how there's overlay amongst the sectors so that we don't have drop calls.
All right. And then that is how the sectors work in actuality, but to make it clean for presentation's sake, you sometimes can draw the sectors as close as you can to that with straight lines.
Yes, sir, you would make more of a cone shape to give a visualization of the direction of the antenna.
Now, is there a give and take, how many miles one way or the other that a person would be at a certain time when you're drawing those sectors and drawing the cones from those sectors?
The person or the tower?
Or the tower, rather.
Yes, sir, every tower can be different. It can depend on things as the topography. It can depend on buildings. A tower that's in downtown Memphis that has big buildings around it's not going to go out as far as a tower that's out in the country or in the interstate driving to Nashville.
Now, in that part of East Memphis / Germantown that we're talking about, there are not a lot of large, the Clark Tower and things like that in that area, correct?
No, sir, there's
Not a lot of super tall hotels or office buildings out in that area.
No, sir.
And that's what you were talking about just a second ago, population, terrain. We don't have valleys, mountains, anything like that.
No, sir.
And the number of towers. Is there anything that's less than you can? Now, we spoke yesterday about towers going towards Walnut, right?
Yes, sir.
And you wouldn't expect the same number of towers necessarily driving down 72 than you would on Poplar in East Memphis.
No, sir.
All right.
You would not.
And you would expect more in this area, in Memphis.
In a
than you
populated
would.
area, yes, sir.
Now, in your analysis, you didn't make the call, but would it have been in retrospect a good thing to have gotten records going back maybe 2 weeks prior to the date in question?
We would have gotten 36 months.
Okay.
Yes, sir. We would have gotten more records if we were doing this case today.
All right. And at that time, or what we have to depend on are sector records for 4 days, basically.
Yes, sir. We had, Mr. Turner's records were for 30 days, so we had those 30 days. That's all we had to reference.
Did you, using those records for 30 days, did anybody run to Atlanta and talk to maybe the Atlanta Police Department or whatever county would make up that particular area that Mr. Wright lived in to see if there was ever a bounce in that sector?
I can't testify to that. I didn't do it. I don't know if they did or not.
Do you have anything in this report that reflects that you have that data has been provided or gathered by the Memphis Police Department?
As far as going to Atlanta?
As far as any kind of record saying that Billy Turner would have been in that sector or that he would not have been in that sector that was close to Mr. Wright's home in Atlanta, Georgia?
I don't have records that detail that, no, sir.
C Spire, Verizon, AT&T, each are 3 different providers, and each has different mechanisms by which you'd have to interpret the data that they gather regarding their phone usage.
Yes, sir.
Matter of fact, when we talked yesterday, I asked you, just based off of the records that we received, AT&T is probably the easiest of the 3 to interpret, right?
It's just, they all provide the raw data in a different format. So AT&T provides it in a PDF and a text. They provide it broken down by voice, by data, and by SMS. So it's a little bit We can go through it. Theirs is just a different method.
They provide a longitude, latitude on the actual form that you provided to the disc that I got. Did you get a disc from the DA's office, or did you provide the disc to the DA's office with the different, with Billy Turner, Jimmy Martin, and Cheryl Wright's phone data?
I was provided that information.
So you wouldn't have gone back and looked back at the sections or anything like that after getting the information from the DA's office?
Yes, sir. I looked at the records making this report, if that's what you're asking. Yes,
When
sir.
were you provided the records?
These records were obtained in 2010. We've had, throughout the investigation, they've had these records since 16 or 17 is when they started getting Operation Rebound. And I was part of that operation. So as far as me particularly, I was provided all these records in the last 2 or 3 weeks, and as far as everything to make sure we had it, what we needed.
The full report that you went in and completed the other day?
Yes.
Back in 2016, that would have been around the time that you got certified to give the type of testimony that you're giving today, right?
That's for cell phones.
Right.
For cell phone records, I started actually getting trained on that back in 2008.
Right. But for the actual cell phone, data usage, et cetera, I know about gathering, but I'm
Yes.
saying to give the type of expert testimony, it would have been simultaneous pretty much with Operation Rebound.
As far as for the physical phone, yes, the phone records, we had those throughout the case.
Right.
As far as just to double check that we had everything has been the last several weeks. But yes, sir, we had access to those records in 16.
All right. For that July 15th date, did you check and see where Cheryl Wright was?
No, sir, I was not asked to look at that.
Did you check to see where Jimmy Martin was on July 15th?
I was not asked to look at that.
All right. And having read what you read earlier about them asking where are you and giving 30-minute, et cetera, that would have been something worth at least looking into, do you not think?
If they had asked me to analyze it and map it out, we would have done that.
All right. But you weren't.
No, sir, I was not.
All right. And we talked earlier, you got the calls between Billy and Cheryl Wright, 186. Now, that number does not reflect how many incoming versus outgoing.
It's just a total number.
Right. And it also doesn't reflect how many times the numbers were actually engaged into a conversation.
No, sir, it does not.
All right. And likewise, Billy Turner and Jimmy Martin. Now, you can say from what you have provided as the data and what you've rendered as an opinion that at least on that day in question, Jimmy Martin had initiated conversations with Billy Turner on the July 18th day, correct?
They called each other back and forth, yes, sir.
Now, did it appear that there might have been a missed call and then Billy Turner attempted to call? Do you know any of the background to any of that?
No, sir, I do not.
All right. Analysis report, the 7250 German Creek Park. You testified yesterday where that home would be in relations to a specific sector, right?
Yes, sir.
And you did give analysis that during that evening that he had been in that sector, right?
Yes, sir.
And I thought you were clear on this, but I want to make sure. You never said that Billy Turner tried to cut his phone off and cut it back on or any of that, right?
No, sir, I did not.
It appeared that his phone stayed on the same way, right?
Yes, sir.
And we go to the cell phone map. Now right here, 7-8. I'm in that weird area that my eyesight is failing me from this distance. And
That's okay.
And if it was a little bit closer, but I'm thinking that first line is Jimmy Martin, right? And it has outgoing on your chart up there.
Yes, sir, it does. It's at 23:41 hours military time, 11:41 p.m. It's an outgoing call to Jimmy Martin.
Now that's on July 18th.
It's on July 18th.
But actually earlier that day, was there not a call, or later that the 17th, was there not a call during the hours prior to then from Jimmy Martin to Billy Turner?
I'd have to refer back to the records if we want to look and see if they're there. Because you want me to look at these?
The jury has it, they can look at it, but
Okay.
you can look at it if you like, I don't mind.
So you're asking about the 17th in the evening hours? Is that right?
Correct. All right, on the 18th, you have at 23:41:49.
Yes, sir.
All right, that would have been approximately 11 o'clock on the 18th.
Yes, sir.
But that's not the first phone call from July 18th.
No, sir. That's the end of the day.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
So in other words, and I know that you're focusing on a particular time for the sake of your presentation, but that presentation does not reflect the fact that Jimmy Martin is attempting to contact Billy Turner during the early parts of the day.
Yes, sir. If you look at the date of July 18th at 14:03 hours or 2:03 p.m., there's an incoming call from Edna J., who we know as Jimmy Martin, to Mr. Turner
Okay.
on the records.
And like I said, you have raw data, et cetera. You don't have any of the background stuff about what's going on during the day or any of that.
No, sir.
All right. Let's go to the next. Now, you have a Billy Turner cell tower usage, July 18, 2010, all right, to July 19, 2010.
Yes, sir.
And you have, what I'm looking at is some clearly defined sectors, right?
Yes, sir. The
And-
cell towers and the directions of the, yes, sir.
All right. And during that day, based off of the information that you have gathered and that you are interpreting for this jury, those sectors are the sectors that reflect the cell towers that Billy Turner used during the course of that day, right?
Yes, sir. In this slide particularly, you're looking at a call that was at 20:42 hours, I believe. That's going to be 8:42 p.m. on this 18th.
Right.
And the tower below that white bubble is an arrow pointing to the sector of that cell tower that was used or reflects in the records that was connected to.
And it reflects that it was connected to at a particular time, right?
Yes, sir.
But it also reflects on not that sector, but the sector that would be to the east of that.
I'm just showing that as reference. It was not connected there.
Okay.
We didn't individually map out each tower individual. So this is a reflection of the towers between that time frame of 2042 to 015. And then as we go through the slides, the arrow will point to the sector of the tower that it's connecting to for that call.
All right. Now, you have a dot reflecting Shara Wright's house,
Yes, sir, we do.
and you drew that dot based on what?
So her address, we used her address to then do a Google search. From there, we were able to obtain the GPS coordinates. The GPS coordinates for her house was then put into the system, and that's how we were able to drop a pin essentially where that's at.
When you drop that pin at that particular house, that house is actually, I think, a little bit outside of that sector, is it not?
Well, so that sector, that's not a true representation like we talked about with the technology. That's to give a visual reference
Right.
to what direction it's going.
Okay.
I can't testify to you to the distance at which that sector would end. We would have to do additional testing that we didn't have access to then, and we can't do it now based on we can't go back 12 years. So all we can say is that cell tower, if you look at the kind of bubble to the right of the arrow, that's where the tower is located.
Right.
The sector is pointed in that direction based off the raw data from the cell phone carrier, and that's the direction at which the antenna was pointed, and that's where the phone connected.
Okay. Now, you said earlier that you do this, you prepare these presentations for the district attorney's office sometimes,
Yes, sir.
and this would not be your first time doing it.
I look at cell phone records pretty much every day, 5 days a week, for various homicide cases and violent crime cases throughout the city.
Right. And would you say that you prepared some probably 83, 84 reports?
Prepare a lot. I don't know the exact number.
About 83 or 84. Now, there are times that you give specific data. Like, in other words, if there's a homicide that happens at Sheriff's house, you are able to say, Paul, this person definitely was right here at that particular time because of the data that you gathered. There are times that you do that, correct?
If you're referring to GPS data off of a phone, Is
That
that what
you-
you're relating to?
What I'm referring to, there are times that you can tell that a person is in a particular sector.
Yes, sir, there's technology that aid us in providing that information. As
Right.
far as provide us what area and what part of the sector they're in. Yes, sir.
Right. In other words, you have said before, this person is John Perry, was into it with Judge Coffey. John Perry was standing in front of Judge Coffey when he was shot by Judge Coffey. You're able to say that in cases and provide that information because you say that at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, these two people are definitely in this sector.
That would be more for phone analysis and then utilizing the GPS on a phone. I can't say that based off of a cell phone record, off of a sector in a tower.
Right, but you can definitely say that in cases, and you have said it.
In cases involving cell phones, yes, sir, we can say that.
All right. Gave me a, oh. How do I go back? All right, no, never mind. All right. The white bubble, what is that saying?
So this is now reflective of a call that was later. So this is a call at 20:54 hours. So on the same day, the 18th. And so now it's telling you that it's changed to the other side of that tower. So it's not showing on the sector that was the previous slide. So it's showing on the antennas are facing the other direction.
Now, if I posit to you that that is the starlight area that I was asking you about, is there any way that you would, or any reason that you'd have to say that's not starlight? Or commonly referred to as starlight?
I'm not sure where Starlight's at, sir. I can't testify to it. I don't know where on the map it would be.
Have you ever Googled 494 South Main Street Starlight? Or,
No, sir. I have not. I wasn't asked to look into that. No, sir.
and you don't know whose home would be in that area or anything, but you do know that Billy's phone was used in that sector at some point.
Yes,
that
sir.
evening.
That's what the records indicate. Yes,
All
sir.
right. Now, yesterday you were clear when you talked to the jury about he was at Sheriff's house. So right now, I just want to be clear. You can't say he was at Sheriff's house.
No, sir. We can say that he was in that sector at that time of day. That's
Can
what
you
we
say how long he was in that sector?
We can only show, but based on the towers. No, sir. The duration of the calls.
Can you say if he was at a gas station in that sector?
I can't say that. No, sir. I don't.
Can you say if he stopped to get a Coca-Cola in that sector?
I don't know what he did in that sector. So, no, sir.
And so you don't know that he's visiting Sheriff or Sheriff's neighbor or anybody in that sector, right?
No, sir. Based on the information we had, the records only reflect that he was using that side of the tower
In that
at
sector.
time. In that sector.
All right. Now, right here you have the 4 places that you're saying, I think right now I'm pointing at the calls in the middle, calls at 2252.
Yes, sir.
Those were made where?
So all these calls at 2252, 2313, 2343, and 2347 were all in the tower that the arrow is pointing to. So the white bubble and the tower that it's pointing to, which is going to be closest to Mr. Turner's house, we have listed based on the subscriber information.
Did you see a name Raven Faulkner in those records at all?
Yes, sir, we did.
Do you know where Raven lives?
I do not.
You know Raven's relationship with Billy back then?
No, sir, I do not.
You don't know if she lives along 385 or it's a number of apartments out there, right?
There are apartments out there, yes, sir.
All right. You don't know if Raven lives in one of them or not, right?
I do not know.
Now I see 2 purple sectors, right?
Yes, sir.
And I see a dot above those sectors, homicide location.
Yes, sir.
Now, in a few minutes, I'm going to get to a slide where you give a clear sector where the 911 call was made, right?
Yes, sir.
For clarity's sake, you don't have any record saying that Billy Turner at any point in time was in that sector.
Which sector we're referring to? The one with the arrow? Yes, sir.
The one with the dot,
The dot.
yes.
Again, all we can reference is that his cell phone connected to that cell tower that's right there below the blue arrow.
Where's
on the
below
right.
the blue arrow?
On the right side, the white bubble. The blue arrow pointing to the purple sector.
I understand that.
That's where the tower is located, right there in the middle of Windike Golf Course.
Yeah.
And then from there, that tower goes in that direction going north. And that's not a true representation of where the tower ends. The tower can go a little bit wider than that. The sector, we'd have to do a drive test to know that. And we couldn't do that in 2016, 17, or now.
Right. Windike has a number of houses around the surrounding golf course, right?
Yes, sir, it does.
And also has to the east, I think, 2 apartment complexes, correct?
I have to look at a map, but yes, sir, we can say that.
But you know, it's apartments in that area.
Yes, sir, there's apartments around there off Winchester.
And as I stated, from this particular map, unlike the cases where you can clearly say he's square in the middle of this sector, looking at this map, there's no way that you can say Billy Turner is at that homicide location. Yes or no? You were able to give me the answer yesterday pretty easily. The answer is a no, right?
Your Honor, I think he's allowed to answer the question and provide an explanation. Some sort of demand, yes or no, is inappropriate, objectionable.
I thought that Your Honor gave me a stern talking to without giving an open-ended question to the lady day before yesterday.
I don't give any
I gave a strong
Mr. Perry,
suggested answer.
Mr. Perry,
Oh.
there's been an objection. I'm going to rule on it. You cannot talk over me while I'm making a ruling, Mr. Perry.
I know.
The objection from the state is that you need to allow this witness to answer a question. You may ask close-ended questions. If it can be answered yes or no, he'll answer yes or no, but you cannot demand an answer from a witness. The question is not evidence. The answer to the question is evidence. If you need to explain an answer, you may certainly explain an answer, but you cannot demand that he answer a question yes or no.
I can't ask a yes or no question then.
You can answer yes or no question. If you
Okay.
answer yes or no, you may do so, but you can't demand an answer from a witness.
All right, without demanding you, pick a line, yes or no. Is he definitively in that sector? Yes or no?
His cell phone connected to that tower that covers that area.
But he's not on that picture in that sector. The answer would be a no, would it not?
And again, you ask him a question and definitively, can you say whether or not Mr. Turner was there or not? He can't answer that question, Mr. Perry. He can told you the answer is that his cell phone was in the area. Please turn off all communication devices and cell phones.
Can I proceed, John?
Yes, sir.
All right. Lorenzen Wright, 911 call, cell tower map. Did you prepare that?
Yes, sir, I did.
It's a homicide location.
Yes, sir.
What sector is that?
We are looking here at his AT&T records. I'd have to refer back to those to tell you the exact sector. That's not the same as C-Spire, Sailor South. So the tower is actually north of the homicide scene, and the tower face would be going south. So that's the direction that it's going in.
All right. And that south-facing cell phone sector
Yes, sir.
is clearly defined, is it not?
Yes, sir, but there again, I would say that in reference and understand that is not the end of the tower.
Right.
That is only a representation of the direction at which that antenna and that face of that tower is going.
Right.
And so that is not the end of it, but that's the direction it's going in, yes, sir.
All right. And there's an overlapping area?
Yes, sir, there is.
What's that overlapping area?
So the second tower is the ending call, starting and ending. So the 911 call utilized 2 different cell towers to start and end. And so the second tower, or the ending tower, is going to be south of the homicide scene and facing back east. And that overlapping area is where those 2 towers overlap.
Billy Turner's cell phone never reached that overlapping area at all, did it?
I can't testify to that because, again, we don't know the exact range of that tower.
But according to what you can testify to, you don't have anything that says that it was. Correct?
All I can say is that it was in that area using that tower, yes, so that's all I can
Using-
say.
wait a minute.
Not those towers, if you go to the next one, his C-Spire tower. It was at
Okay.
Windike.
But he was not in that, he was not, and I want to be clear, this defined area where you have Lorenzen Wright's body, he was not in that area. You don't have anything that suggests that. that his phone used that tower?
It would never use the same tower as AT&T, if that's what you're referring to?
I'm saying that you don't have any suggestion that it was using the ceasefire tower in that area either. You don't have anything overlapping that data, just like when I was talking earlier, where you say the person is on this scene and I can put them on the scene. There's nothing from that phone record that you have that puts him on that scene.
Going back to that, we'll go back to it. It's okay. When you're referring to that, it's more, we would extract an iPhone of a suspect. We would then pull the GPS. The GPS would then put us on an actual scene. As far as cell phone records, what we have here is the voice calls. We can only put a person, or not even a person, we can only put a device using a tower in a sector, in an area. I can't tell you based off of CDR, call detail records, that my phone is exactly right here. Now that would have to be a GPS hit, which is a totally different record than a call record from a carrier. And in this instance, all we have to go by were the call records from the carrier that gives us the address of the tower. It gives us a sector of a tower. It gives us the direction of that sector, and that's what we have to go with.
So in essence, without the GPS record, you don't have him on that site, right?
Without the I don't have a GPS record of him on that site.
That's
no,
what I'm
sir.
saying. You don't have a GPS record of him on that site.
No, sir, I do not.
And you don't have any science to a reasonable degree of your analytical skills at the time that you were analyzing this, either 6 years ago or today, that puts him on that scene.
I'll reference back to the records. All we can say is the device connected to a tower that had the signal going in that direction.
Yeah.
And we don't know the distance of that tower because we weren't able to obtain it back then or now.
Right.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So you don't. We'll move on. All right. In these photos, where you have the sector usage again, purple seems to be kind of far from green up there now, right?
Yes, sir.
All right. And purple over to the east never overlaps with green. It overlaps with an intersecting overlap, but it never definitively overlaps with the green where Lorenzen Wright's body was found. Is that correct?
Again, for this representation, this is not a true, the end of that cone, where the white bubble is, that's with the arrow pointing to it, the end of that cone is not the end of that tower. So, sir, I can't testify that tower could go out for another half a mile. We would have had to have done a drive test to gather exactly the distance. So I can't testify that it stops there and that it never goes there.
Right.
All I can tell you is that it's pointed in that direction, and that direction of the antenna is where it's headed. That's the area that it could be in. But I don't know the distance of when that cone stops. That's just for representation for the jury.
All right. Since we're talking about probabilities, you can't say it's 40% likely, can you? That he's in that sector where Lorenzen Wright's body was found. You can't say it's 40%, can you?
What we could say is that below where the arrow is on the white bubble, there's a cell tower. That cell tower face and the antenna is pointing north. Within that area, and there could be, when we talked about the side lobe and the rear lobe, and we were able to show that it goes over, that tower is going to have some side lobe, some rear lobe, some back lobe. So that phone can be north of it. It could be, it's utilizing that tower going north, and it's somewhere in that area. That's all we can testify to, sir. I don't know how I can give you a percentage.
Right. That's what I wanted.
I can't give you a percentage.
You cannot give a percentage, right?
No, sir, I cannot give you a
And
percentage.
you definitely cannot give a certainty, right?
I can't give you a percentage. I can't do that.
Right. And so you cannot tell us that that sector that Billy Turner used was in any way near or close enough to have been a part of a homicide scene. You can't testify to that.
We can't testify. I can't testify to how far out the tower goes. No, sir.
No, I didn't ask you about how far the tower goes. I said you cannot testify as to whether or not Billy Turner was on that scene or anywhere near that scene.
We can listen to an entirely different question than we just asked.
It is a different question, and he can't, based on what he's told you, cannot give an answer to who was where or at what time. What he's saying is that based on cell phone records, he can tell you where a cell phone may have been connected to a tower but he's incapable of telling this jury whether or not Mr. Turner was or was not at the homicide scene. You may proceed, Mr. Perry.
All right. I like the judge's answer. All right.
Yes, sir.
That's a better answer. Let's go on. On the cell tower house,
Yes, sir.
518, what is that?
That's the number of times that Tower 249 or the starting Tower 249 was utilized in the between 7.5 and 8.5.
And that is being utilized by whom?
Mr. Martin's cell phone. I'm sorry, Mr. Turner's cell phone records.
All right.
The jury is looking, those may have been the 2 pages that were not there, so those are 2 separate pages. You may proceed, Mr. Perry.
Yes, sir. And then you said the cell records from that particular time frame, July 19, 2010, right?
Yes, sir.
That's the early morning hours beginning.
I believe if we go to the next slide, I can tell you. Yes, sir.
Right. Now, this is sort of what we were talking about earlier, right? We didn't talk about Lorenzen Wright Jr.'s phone usage, did we?
Earlier today? No, sir, we have not.
But yesterday you were asked questions about it and whether or not those, why those phone calls, or not why, but the fact that Lorenzen Wright Jr.'s son, his nickname was Snoop, or is Snoop.
Yes, sir.
And there are calls that go to him during that time, correct? I see at 7:19.
Yes, starting at 6 in the morning, an outgoing call from Mr. Turner's phone was placed to the phone that we identified belonging to Lorenzen Wright Jr., a.k.a. Snoop.
Now, do you know whether or not Billy got any phone calls around 1 o'clock from Shara or Jimmy during that evening?
Yes, sir, the records indicate that he did receive calls around 1 o'clock in the morning. Or he may have placed a call. I'd have to look at the records.
Do you know what time Billy would wake up?
I have no idea. No, sir, I can't testify to the sleep patterns of Mr. Turner.
And do you know if when he woke up, he would have seen a missed call and tried to call it back?
It's very possible. I can't testify to that.
And do you know how much Shara used the phone identified as Snoop's phone?
I can't testify to the number of times, no, sir.
And how often, right?
No, sir, I can't testify to that.
Then you got Jimmy Martin's cell phone mapping, 18th to the 19th. Now, this is Jimmy Martin's calling to Billy Turner, according to your report. all
Yes,
right?
sir.
And did you look into the Gustavo Alejandre?
No, sir, I did not.
And did you check what sectors that phone might have been using
For which calls?
for the calls that are down the middle?
I think it needs to be clear when it says that
So-
phone, I don't know what.
I apologize.
Yes, I understand.
All right. I see the red highlighted, the calls that were going to Billy Turner,
Yes, sir.
and you talked about those yesterday, right?
Yes, sir, we did.
And when we go down mid-page, there's a Gustavo Alejandre.
Yes, sir.
You see that name?
I do.
And I might be butchering it, and I apologize if I am.
Alejandre.
I mean,
Yes, sir.
okay. And you didn't do anything to try to receive any report or record from that phone number?
No, sir, I did not.
I believe yesterday you were testifying that it appears to be directly west of 55, correct? Just as a reference point, knowing that 55 is running, if you look at the far
Yes,
east
sir.
side of your
Yes,
map.
sir, you could say that. It's right clear near the middle of Batesville.
And you testified that you believe that that was where the cell phone that was operated by Jimmy Martin was being used from.
Yes, sir, the records indicate that was a call at 11:45 or 11:44 p.m. on the 18th. And the cell towers that were used for that call are mapped right there in Batesville.
But you don't have any testimony regarding who might have had his cell phone or how it was being used, any of that?
No, sir, all I have is the raw data.
All right. Likewise, with the next slide,
Yes, sir.
where is that?
That's just further, you would say west from where the first, so that's the beginning and ending calls for that. So the first tower used was more in the center of Batesville, and the next tower would be used further west.
did you do as a part of your investigation or what you engaged in, you weren't given any addresses regarding Jimmy Martin, were you?
No, sir, I was not.
And you don't know where that phone was coming from or anything at that point as it relates to anything other than the sectors that might have been bouncing?
No, sir, I was asked to analyze the records for around the same time, a little bit before and during the homicide.
Jump ahead some, but these all seem to reflect where that cell phone might be going at a certain point, correct?
Yes, sir, these are all based on the raw data from, at that point, Verizon. So that would be the call that was captured by the Verizon network. And then that information was sent to us, and then we analyzed that, and that's where the tower is located.
All right. Are you familiar with that area, the Batesville area?
Not really.
All right, that's Panola County. Now that top part, it seems to be Sardis, all right?
Yes, sir, it's what,
And there's a Sardis exit right there.
yes, sir.
And at that Sardis exit, it appears to be where that cell phone was used once again, correct?
Yes, sir, the date and time for that would be around the July 19th, 2010. It looks like at 12 minutes after midnight.
Do you have any idea of how far from that Batesville, where the initial calls were coming from, that would be?
I do not know a distance, no, sir.
20 miles, 30 miles?
We could say that. I don't know the
You don't know.
distance.
All right. Now, it says Martin Cell Towers, and then it has homicide location, all right? Now, you put that together based off the information and data that was given from Mr. Hagerman's office, correct?
Yes, sir, throughout the investigation, yes.
And at the time, you said earlier that you did not do any investigation regarding any other number, like the Merwill, Hampton, right?
No, sir.
Any other numbers that might have appeared during the time frame of that July 18th date. You didn't do any investigation on what towers might have been used, correct?
No, sir.
Or retrieve any data or anything?
No, sir, I did not.
All right, July 21st, 2010. It says Jimmy Martin drove from Batesville, Mississippi to Memphis. How do you know that?
That was part of, you have to ask the other investigators, I was asked to look at the cleanup after the homicide and was informed that Mr. Martin and it's believed Mr. Martin, Mr. Turner, and Ms. Wright all met up together on that day. So I was asked to analyze records referring to that date.
All right, that's part of the analysis information that you were provided by the DA's office, though.
The DA and the
the
operation,
investigator.
yes, sir, the investigators.
Now, so I guess a more true statement would be on July 21st, 2010, Jimmy Martin's cell phone appears to come from Batesville to Memphis. It might be more convoluted to say, but that's more accurate, right?
The cell towers indicate that it traveled up the interstate and then it came into Memphis. So we know that it was in Memphis.
The cell phone, though, not Jimmy Martin himself.
Yes, sir, we can only testify to the cell phone.
All right. And then likewise, did Jimmy Martin meet up with Billy Turner at Cheryl Wright's house? Where's that information coming from?
It's again the cell tower records, and so the call records.
All
So
right.
we have call records from Mr. Turner, we have call records from Mr. Martin, we analyze those records.
To say what cell tower area they might have been called, or sectors.
Yes, sir, we can again only testify to the sectors and the towers from the data.
All right. Then Jimmy Martin, Billy Turner, cell tower mapping. You did that.
Yes, sir.
But you're actually mapping
We're
Thanks.
mapping the raw data, yes, sir.
the raw data from the cell phone.
From the device. I can't.
Now, you don't know or firsthand about the usage of any car or somebody asking to use Billy Turner's car during the days preceding that, or what day the car was supposed to have been returned to Billy Turner. You don't have that information, or do you?
No, sir, I don't.
Now, this is the phone record data that you're referring to from from
July.
7/20 and 7/21.
Yes, sir. So, yes, so this is Mr. Martin's phone records. This is Jimmy Martin's phone records, and we're focusing on the mapping itself. Focuses on the bottom part, the bottom square, which is going to be July 21st, 2010, at 10:20 in the morning, and going down to 1916, which would be about 7:15 at night.
And from that blurb, you don't know what other calls that would have been sent to Billy Turner regarding the expectations of Jimmy Martin or anything like that?
The content of the conversation?
Contents of any conversation?
No, sir, I can't testify to you about.
Now, you do have some content between Jimmy and Shara that we're going to talk about in a few minutes. But for the sake of this, other than Shara making reference to Billy owing her for passing the business cards to Lorenzen, we don't know if it's a ruse or not, but we know that she made reference to that in a text message to Billy.
Correct.
That's the only content that we have from Billy to Shara, correct?
Yes, sir.
All right. You got the homicide location, and then you have Shara Wright's house. All right? I think that's self-explanatory. I don't know if I don't want to take too much time.
Oh, yes, sir, that's no problem. It's, this first one indicates that the phone was the phone connected to a tower that is around an interstate.
Whose phone is that?
This is Mr. Martin's phone.
All right. Now, in this particular area that we're talking about from the records, we know that Billy Turner lives in this area, right? In one of these areas, close to
You're
where
talking about
Shara
where-
Wright's house is, or to the west of where Shara Wright's house is.
Yes, sir, I didn't include his pin drop in this map, it didn't.
All right.
But his house is up there closer to where the
Let me-
Costco warehouse would be.
Let me ask my question a different way. That's a good distance from where Panola County is, right?
From where Billy Turner's house is?
From where we're looking at on this map right now. I don't see.
Oh, you're talking about where the cell tower to Panola County?
Right, in Batesville. That's nowhere close. He's not running to the grocery store or anything like that.
No, sir, he's not.
He's not going to Raven's house.
I don't know where Raven lives, but
Right.
he's not in Batesville.
All right. All right. Anything particular about this?
No, sir, if you go back to the previous slide.
Yes, sir.
So we're just looking at, there's nothing, you can go forward now.
All right.
Sorry.
Sorry.
It just indicates that the tower is now, the phone is now connecting to a tower that's going to be in Memphis.
All right. You have a time reference for this?
For this one, it shows 10:28. Now we have another tower that's closer to Southwind High School, which is going to be close to Shelby Drive area.
Right. On Shelby Drive. Right.
Yes, sir. And now we have it's utilizing a tower that's going to be facing the direction and could cover Shara Wright's house.
Right.
And then after that, it moves again to another tower around 385, and I think it's Kirby Parkway area.
All right.
And now it's bouncing on using a tower that's going to be north of the previous tower. It's off Poplar Pike. I said maybe close to Germantown High School as a
Right.
reference point.
Good high school.
And then it goes back to the same 385 and Kirby Parkway tower.
All right.
This just shows an overflow or overview of the starting location is down there in Mississippi. It's heading north, and then it's into Memphis, where it heads east. And then based on the times and the towers, it would use the far, I guess, east that would be that tower that could cover Shara's house. Then it's going to move back towards the west, and then kind of bounce off those two towers that you're seeing where it says ending tower and homicides.
And you can't provide any testimony regarding what vehicle he's driving in or anything like that during this time, right?
No, sir, I cannot.
Right. All right. The 21st, and this is related to Billy Turner's phone.
Yes, sir, it is.
You have this, where you.
We're just focusing on the time of 12 p.m. on the 21st to 12:21, so that 21-minute time frame is what we're looking at.
All right. Go back just a second. I know we want to move on here. Did you have a particular focused time frame on Jimmy Martin?
We looked at around 12 o'clock, so we were focusing on that time frame of 12 o'clock.
Can you tell us how long Jimmy Martin would have been in that area during that day?
The 12 o'clock?
Yes, sir.
We'd have to look at.
No, not 12 o'clock. I mean, that day in general. In other words, if he had been here from 11 to 5, 11 to 2.
If you go back to the very first slide with his towers. So go back to where he's in Mississippi. All right, go forward. Go forward. Go one more. So that tower, that time there is 10:28 a.m. And then if you go forward to the last tower hit there, I think it's around 7 o'clock that night. So it would be fair to say that based on, now he could have left, come back, the towers, the records we have only are for that, show those times.
Okay.
And it shows him in Memphis at 10:28, and it shows him still in Memphis at 7:15, I think it's around the time, 7:16 at night.
Right.
Yes, sir.
So you're telling us that the overlap period would have been a 20-minute period, pretty much, correct?
The total time he was in Memphis, or
Well,
what are you referring
The
to?
overlap time that we're talking about the cleanup here, let me go back to this.
Okay.
All right, it's July 21st, 2010.
Yes, sir.
Cleanup. All right. July, yards growing and things like that?
Yes, sir.
Weeds out there?
Grass have to be cut, yes, sir.
All right. Your yard, man, that's a good time of the year.
It would be, yes, sir. Very profitable.
All right, you know how many businesses in that area Billy was cutting back then?
I have no idea, sir.
All right. Billy Turner connected to C Spire Towers at 3:05 and 1:09. All right.
Yep.
So that says between 12 p.m. and 12:21 p.m. Correct?
Yes, sir, it does.
And then it has C Spire cell tower 109, same cell tower used by Billy Turner's phone on the night homicide when he was at Sheriff Wright's house. Now we've corrected that, right? We don't know that he was at Sheriff Wright's house.
We can only, yes, sir, we can only testify that his phone was in that area.
Right. So, the night of the homicide, when he was at a place that we don't know, house prior to the murder, right? Let's
Yes,
go
sir.
to the next one. And so, tell me what you're explaining there.
So here we're just explaining that the calls usage for Tower 305 was at 12 o'clock and 3 minutes after 12. So 12 o'clock and 12:03, it was utilizing Tower 305 for C Spire or Cellular South. Then if you show it 12:04, 12:05, and 12:21, it utilized the next tower for C Spire,
All right.
which would be to, I guess, back east of it.
Do you know where Jimmy Martin is right now?
But to go to the
Not,
next.
not today, but I'm saying right now on this photo.
We'll go to the next slide. It'll show his tower compared to that. So his tower then was going to be east of the house, Sheriff Wright's house, and it was pointed back in that west direction, the side of the face of the tower was being utilized.
All right. And where's Billy Turner during this time?
So his cell phone was connecting to at 12:10. It would have to have been in between on Tower 109, somewhere in that area.
If Billy Turner has family that lives in that area or grew up in that area, that would make sense to be in that area, would it not?
Turner objects to speculation. False or speculation.
Would sustain the objection as to whether or not Mr. Turner has family in that area, grew up in that area, I don't believe. I think you testified that you didn't know that.
No, sir, I do not.
You may proceed.
I'll move on if you didn't know.
Yes, sir.
All right. And the other thing is you don't know if he's cutting yards out there either, right?
Same question, calls for speculation.
All right.
Let me ask another question, Ms. Perry.
Yes, John.
Yes, sir.
Sheriff Wright, 2010 iPhone exam analysis. All right. Exam was completed as a part of Operation Rebound or after Operation Rebound.
Yes, sir.
Did you complete it?
That exam, I'd have to go back and see. It was completed at the Real-Time Crime Center. I'm not 100% certain if I did it or if one of our other technicians. We had multiple people doing exams, but I was just asked. I was asked to analyze the data that was extracted.
That's the iPhone, right?
Yes, sir, it is.
We need to dig in the weeds on that, or is there anything you want to?
No, sir. It's an iPhone 3G. It is what it is.
Same thing. You said 295 instant messages were obtained in the extraction of the iPhone.
Yes, sir.
All right, and then down at the bottom it says 83 of the 295 that were obtained were deleted.
Yes, sir.
All right. And you were able, or somebody with your office was able to get that information.
Yes, sir. So when you extract the phone, that's what comes out. So this actually would take the data that was, the raw data that was extracted and imported into the physical analyzer, which is the tool to analyze the data. And then it shows that. That's a picture, a snip of the picture that shows the data content.
All right. And that's what when you were talking yesterday about if you erase it, it still might be there.
Yes, sir.
We had friends that were ducking and dodging when you said that.
Yes, sir.
All right. All right, let's go to the timeline. Timeline search of the iPhone showed 7 instant messages between Shara Wright and Billy Turner, and you say 7:18 to 7:23.
Yes, sir.
All right. Were the contents trying to find any location, or do you remember what the contents were?
Of the messages?
Yes.
Not every message, no, sir, I don't.
So all instant messages were deleted. Now, when you say that, to be clear, you don't have deletion history or anything like that from Billy Turner, right?
I don't have Billy Turner's phone, no, sir.
That's Shara deleting whatever she's deleting.
Yes, sir, it's only Sheriff's phone.
All right. And then that's the one message that you did have, that you put in your report. That's the only one that I saw that in any way seemed to be relevant to what we're here about at all. Is that the only record that you have, or the only one that you put in the report?
Yes, sir, it is.
And his response was just okay, right?
Yes, sir.
But you don't have any kind of background data about that interchange at all.
No, sir, I do not.
All right. Timeline search for the iPhone 2014 instant messages with Shara Wright and Jimmy Martin, right? And it's talking about what's going on between Shara Wright and Jimmy Martin. Anything to add or subtract from that?
No, sir.
All right. I know you're tired of me and my party, but what's up? And you're searching through the phone history and the information that you were provided. Is there ever a mention of a party between Shara and Billy that you have?
No, sir, I don't recall that.
And is there ever a mention of, it said, you know, you're good, everybody's straight? Was there any kind of hidden talk between Billy and Shara that you have?
Not that I recall, no, sir.
And don't forget my wallet. We don't know what the reference is in that, I'm assuming.
No, sir, we don't.
And then this is this a different phone?
Yes, sir, this is the phone she would have had when she was arrested in California.
All right. It says gray key, that's the tool that gets the stuff out of the phone.
Yes, sir, it is. It's a software tool.
All right. And I don't
It's
want
the same information.
I ain't smart enough to read this stuff. But web history.
Yes, sir.
Now, when you went into information from Billy, you don't have him asking about fingerprints and things like that, do you?
No, sir.
All right, you don't have him worried about how long anything stays on guns in the water, right?
No, sir.
All right, this is all stuff from Sheriff's phone, correct?
Yes, sir, it is.
And from the history that you've been provided and all the information and zip drives, etc., there never seems to be a mention of Lorenzen by Billy during that investigation time, does there?
Referring to what?
His homicide.
No, sir, I didn't. Not that I recall.
It says here, that's, you know, all the stuff that she seems to be Googling during that time, and I won't have to necessarily reread it, but that's Sheriff's stuff, just for.
Yes, sir. That's only Sheriff's phone. That would be her searching.
Now, on 12/6, that would have been around the time that the news press went, you know, and do what they do, put it out there that Billy Turner had been arrested.
Yes, sir.
And that's what Sheriff does during that time, right?
Yes, sir. She searches all of it.
All right. And looks at indictment, etc.
She did. Yes, sir.
Now, when you look at the Facebook messages, you said that you realize you got the zip drive, but you only focused on a few pages of it, though, right?
Yes, sir. I was asked by the DA's office to look at the conversation between Mr. Martin and Shara Wright.
Do you remember when that request came to you?
A week ago, 2 weeks ago.
About a week?
Yes, sir.
All right. You know how many times this case has been set for trial?
Object to the relevance of this.
Ladies and gentlemen, how many times a case has been set for trial is not really relevant. We were not able to try cases for about 2 years because the Supreme Court of the State of Tennessee suspended all jury trial settings, so it's not anybody's fault. We were not able to try trials because of coronavirus. In that case, that question has no relevance as to whether or not Mr. Turner is guilty or not guilty. You shall disregard that question and don't guess or speculate in answers to that question. Ms. Perry, you may proceed.
Thank you. Down here where it has good looking out, that's not good looking out to Billy, right?
No, sir.
Who is that written to?
To Jimmy Martin.
And same thing about your beats. Any luck? When you got the Facebook records, they seem to be, and I'm glad that you put them in this order, but they seem to be going like backwards, forward.
Yes, sir. The reason why I was asked so late to do this is because of my expertise in the software that we have. Not everybody on the department has access to it.
Okay.
So our software is able to put it in this format so that you can see it in bubbles.
Yes,
So
sir.
it's not as a PDF, so it's so difficult.
Okay.
So that's one reason why at the end I was asked to make it more easy to read.
I appreciate it, and it does do that. If we go to the next page,
Yes, sir.
all right, this Jimmy Martin, no luck, still looking, win the party. Now, he's asking Shara about a party, but you don't have any sort of messages or instant messages going to Billy asking about a party.
Yes, sir.
And then he said, man, you driving me crazy with this party. We keep getting our days and times mixed up. What you gonna do? That's Shara to Jay, right?
Yes, sir.
Man, we got all on our end. What else you need? Cause I can't find another DJ this late. Now, we can't decipher that code, can we?
No, sir.
But we definitely can read it and kind of infer, right?
Yes, sir.
All right. And then down. Wait.
Yeah, stop again.
Thank you.
Apologies. Ladies and gentlemen, one of the members indicate you need a break. Remember the course instructions. You cannot discuss the case with anyone or amongst yourselves. You can follow Deputy Smith. We'll resume when you are ready. Sergeant, would actually step down from the witness stand. You cannot discuss your testimony with anyone over the break, sir.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, sir. For the record, the jury is out. Again, I apologize, Mr. Perry, but the jury sends me a note that says break, please, so we need a break. And it's like TV, about every hour and 10 minutes or so. If I don't take a break, they'll say, Judge, we need one. This court is standing in recess for a few minutes. You can clear the courtroom for me, please.